So I've started the recording and I'm going to hand it off to Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Brenda. And thank you so much for coming today. As we might have heard that so many questions around like how designers and developer and engineers can work together, and that is become adding value for the project, because collaboration is something that we want to make sure that is there whenever we're doing a project. But at the same time, it's also not easy to, because it's a different professional and there's a different process of working, but it is possible. So today, Helio, which is a product designer, a head of product designer from SPARCK, and me myself, a user researcher from SPARCK, I will help facilitate Helio to kind of like lead the discussion and tell you a little bit more about how designers can build a strong relationship with product team stakeholders, which is going to lead you to improve the collaboration between among the team. Yeah, and please, Helio.
I think Amanda, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, so I just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. Yeah. Yeah, cool. I think so. Yes. Okay, great, cool. Yeah. Well, first of all, nice to meet you all. I'm Helio. I'm yes, as Amanda said, head of product design at SPARCK. SPARCK is a design, let's say, design arm of BJSS. BJSS is a consultancy company. The headquarters in the UK, but we are in the UK, Portugal, Denmark, Dublin, in the US, also in Australia and Melbourne. We are growing quite fast, and I basically like a design, like products and service for many sectors, like governments, energy companies, what else, like retail, like all those kind of companies. So when I say products, it's digital products, pretty much. So about myself, so I'm I have graduation in web design. I'm from Brazil and worked in Brazil for many years, and then I came first to Dublin, and then I came after that to London, and where I'm living now for 5 years. Yeah, since then I've been working in SPARCK for 5 years, which is quite a long time. Cool. I'm gonna move on just a little bit. So I'd like to introduce you to the product team. So I guess some of you already worked with like this setup. Perhaps some of you never like heard some of those people. But basically, in BJSS and SPARCK, we usually in a project we usually have a software engineer, right, which you develop the product, like the front end and the back end of the product. They usually use like a language like React or what else, Angular, right? All this kind of language. And then we have also the product owner. The product owner is the owner of the product, literally. The final decision is the product owner. How the product owner, you pretty much drive what the product. You decide what is the priority, and like what sort of features that product should have. That's the product owner role. And we have also the delivery manager, or in some companies they call like project manager. So the delivery manager is pretty much, you make sure like all the resources are there, you take care of the timeline, you make sure like the cost is there, and you try to reduce the risks of the project. That's basically the role. We also have the business analysts, called BA. The business analyst is pretty much you bridge the gap, not the gap, like you bridge all the work that we designers do with also the software engineers, what they're doing, and also what the product owner they want to the product, what sort of things they wish to have the product. So the business analyst will collect this information, write what we call user stories, And yeah, based on that user stories, that's how the designers, software engineers, and the QA testers will work. Then we have product designers. So some companies, they call UX, UI designer. I know, like, I heard once that in the US, the East Coast calls like a more UX, UI designer, the West Coast call product designer, which, yeah, I changed my title in the years quite a lot, but I'm still doing the same thing since I joined. It's pretty much solving users' problem. So yeah, basically we have the product designer, and then we have the last but not least, the QA testers, which is more like focus on test the software, the application, make sure everything is right, test all scenarios, all educated. I haven't added here all the roles that we have in Spark as well, such as user researcher, as Amanda is one of them. I also got like a content designer, service designer, and strategy designer. But today we're gonna pretty much like we're gonna focus more on product design and research. So to start with, I'm gonna let's see if that sounds familiar to you. So let's say a user story was written by a BA, right, a business analyst, and gets accepted by the product owner into a sprint. So if you work in agile environment, so okay, this story is accepted to a sprint. People design, develop, and then the product designer creates the screen and publish it on InVision or Figma, whatever tool you're gonna use, and then sends the link to the software engineer. The software engineer develops the UI, right? And then they pass this UI to the QA tester, which is gonna check if everything's all right, And then the QA tester said, no, I don't want to pass this story because, I talked to the product designer, and the product designer said, was expecting something different, like the UI to behave is likely different or very different from what is developed, is implemented. However, the software engineer pushed back, saying, this behavior or this work was never discussed, it was never outlined. They can't find the requirements to implement that screen behavior. And then the PO, the product owner, and the delivery manager, they decided that, it's too late. And then they said, okay, let's release the product how it is, and then let's move these stories to the next sprint. You see, there is some problems here. So what I'm gonna ask you to do now, I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. Brenda, I guess I'm not sure if you can share with me, or if Amanda. Yeah, the idea is, let me tell you first what we're going to do here in 10 minutes. You're gonna take a moment to reflect on your experience, work with different stakeholders, and come up with some solutions to these scenarios. We brought here 3 different situations, right? Where how working with delivery managers, work with business analysts, and also working with software engineers. And then each room, each situation that we're gonna see 2 scenarios. And the idea is, I'd like you to we're gonna break out in 3 different rooms, and depends the room that you are, 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, I'd like you to read the scenario and discuss between yourself, if that ever happened with you, and if so, what was the solution that you have, or if you didn't have a solution, that's fine, but it's nice to share your opinion. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, and Brenda, we love to invite you to join us as well if you would love to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So you said 3 separate rooms in the breakout rooms?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then myself, Amanda, and you could be in different rooms if it's possible.
Yeah. Should we go ahead and pause the recording for the breakout rooms and then resume it then?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, now we're back from the breakout rooms.
Are we all back?
So I think we are,
I think, yeah, we here.
yeah.
You on mute, Helio, if you're speaking something? I'm not
Oh,
quite
yes,
sure.
yeah, sorry. Can you see my screen? Yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah. Well, I hope that we had like a good discussion and you could like share some previous experience like with those scenarios. So I'm going to show like a couple of things like that we can do to help this relationship with the other like product team. So there is a really good code from Marty Kagan, which is basically like they said like the nature of the relationship is more about true collaboration. I don't mean collaboration as a buzzword either. I literally mean product design and engineer working out solutions together. It's important for you to understand that this is not hierarchy, and that's like a key thing. Like it's not like a like a hierarchy between who owns like the product. Now everyone owns the product, and then you should collaborate to find a solution together. So like I usually say like there are basically 4 challenges when you are working in like in a product team. So first is communication. Communication is key. I worked in so many different projects already. There's some projects that unfortunately when the communication is bad, it's not great, it means that we have to document more. We have to create a lot of documentation because the communication is not good. However, in one of the projects that I worked, it was a bit like a Lean UX project. The team was so good, we communicate so well that we pretty much didn't have to document anything, right? That's a really good thing. We also, there is another thing about design process. We need to make sure the design process is there. We need to, let's say, evangelize in the company the design process and then share with like the engineers, business analysts, delivery managers, like how design works, because they might don't have like an idea how design works. And one thing that we do in BJSS, we have done like many design thinking workshops with the whole office, like each office in each location, and everyone is invited, to attend this workshop. It's a design thinking workshop, and they where we designers present to anyone in the office. It can be literally anyone. What is design thinking? Collaboration. I think the previous slide says about this quite a lot, like how important is collaborate with each other, and you can't work in silos. You need to collaborate with software engineers, BAs, and QA test and everyone. And tools are, I think, is one of the key things. Now we have like a really good tools such as Figma, Zeppelin, Abstract. We have a lot of tools that we can hand off like our work to developers and other like stakeholders. But in the past, I remember that was quite difficult to find the right tool. So the first, like as I said, like define an inclusive and a collaborative design process. So that's one example that we do in SPARCK. We use like the double diamond like approach. That's the updated double diamond from Design Council, where we basically like we go through all this process where we frame the challenge, and then we go to the discover and define phase where we're gonna reframe the problem, make sure if the client is solving the right problem, and then we go to the develop the idea, have some ideation sessions and deliver something, and then the output. That's what we deliver to the engineer team, where they're gonna add this to the backlog, and they're gonna put like in a sprint, and then like gonna develop, implement like the feature, and then deliver the feature and get some reviews. So that's roughly the idea. When I mean like use like the double diamonds, I really mean it. So that's one example of a project where we go through the double diamond, and what's each part of like the diamond. It's part of the diamond. What happens there? who should be involved in, like you see, like you have like designers, BAs, developers. That was in this project, and basically like you know, we involved them during the design process. And every sprint, we go through this design process. It seems like sometimes like it's a bit like a waterfall, but it's not. In reality, it's like this. We pretty much work in 3 work streams. There is a research work stream where, you know, research you do understand what the user needs, what the company needs, the clients, users, and if there is any policy, especially because we work with government quite a lot, and there are a lot of policies that we need to understand. And then the research team, like they give the insight to the design, the product design UX UI team, where the designer, you learn, you understand these insights, you translate to solution, design, prototype the solution, and then test the solution, you know, run some usability testing. Once it's ready, so we tested everything, like the users are happy, like the stakeholders are happy, and then we add like you know, those ideas and prototypes and solutions to the delivery team. The delivery team, you implement, test, and ship this solution. It's basically how we do. Another suggestion that I do as well is write, review, and share the design definition of ready and done. If you're ever worked in this agile way of working, there is this concept of definition of done and definition of ready. We also, designers, we need to have this as well. So definition of ready is, what's the minimum like information that I need to have as a designer to start creating, you know, like the UI, to start translating that user needs to a solution. What's the minimum information I have? And then we also have like a definition of done. Definition of done is, once like the developers implemented that, you know, like the design, what does it mean? It's done, it's finished, it's like over, right? Or actually, it's not even when they implement, also when we finish our work as a designer during the design process. So what's the definition of done? How do we know that it's done? So here are some questions that we should ask like ourselves, like when we start a new user story, a new design task, or when you're finished that. Oh, sorry, here should be definition of done. But basically things like, I'm gonna read like a few examples here. Let's say, if does the team understand where the feature you are designing fits into the overall service journey? Another question is the time you estimate to complete your design task aligned with your other workload expectation? Does the team have the required tools? Has the PO prioritized this feature? So those are the questions that we need to know before starting the you know, like a design anything. Like the first question perhaps is one of the most important. Does the team have a clear understanding of the problem you're trying to solve? Yes or no? So, and then we have the definition of done. Like, what does it mean? So, have you had any like an internal review, like with designers, about what your work? Was the research and ideation done? Was the prototype tested with users? Have the stakeholders approved the UI? Have you run 3 Amigos sessions? I'm going to show what's that in a second. Have you covered all scenarios? Have you covered all agreed browsers and devices? Is the UI accessible? Does the dev team have all assets and specs needed to implement the UI? Those are the definition of done, things that you need to mark as done. Moving on, we have this Design Amigo review, or 3 Amigos there. I prefer to call it Design Amigo review because usually involve more than 3 people. But basically, the Design Amigo review is a session that I have twice a week, usually, where it's just to show the evolution of the design like and where first I usually present like a paper prototype, really low fidelity prototype. And then in 2-3 days, I present like a little bit more with how the WISE has been involved. And then I get like the stakeholders feedback. So it's basically to show like how we design and then involve more like everyone to work on this design. So first, how to do that? First, reinforce the problem to be solved, like in the session. So it's nice. It's good to show like the scenarios that with the problem that we are trying to solve. Let's say if you are trying to solve, we are designing like a calendar where users can schedule like a meeting. So like describe what scenario is that. Present how a user will interact with the UI. Storytelling is crucial here. Let people know that the UI is still open for suggestion and validation. Ask people to write down on Post-its in their concerns and suggestions UI. And then we'll like invite them to put them like on the wall, and then they can share their opinion. So I usually spend like 30 to 45 minutes and in these meetings twice a week, and I invite usually like product designers, BAs, software engineers, and anyone else that should be involved in this this process. Another thing, like to avoid like some problems, especially with like a business analyst, is to business analysts sometimes they give you like when they're writing the stories, they try to give like a solution. Where I'm going to read like an example here, like users successfully logged in. I have a link to the system. When I click the link, then the login page will be displayed, and it will have a text box for username and the text box for password, and a function to submit and a function to reset password. You see, like pretty much like they gave us like a solution already. And sometimes the solution is not like this, there are many solutions that we can, as designers, we can do. So I try to be like, I usually talk to them before starting the project, and we agree how the story should be written. So here's an example. Given that a logout user has been prompted to log in, and the user has provided their login details, when they're successfully authenticated, then they'll see their logged in homepage. So you see, like, it's basically, you're not giving like the solution here. It's basically telling like the problem. And then there is a link to the screen that users can see. Moving on, another thing like I do quite a lot is talking to the QA testers. QA testers, I usually say that they are one of my best friends in the project. Why? Because they're gonna test the screen like everything in the screen. And in most of the projects, the engineers are the majority. They have like usually have more engineers, and the technical team is like, let's say, bigger than the design team. And sometimes they don't have time to validate and see all screens in all browsers, all devices. And however, the QA testers, that's their work. They have to do that. So what I try I try to usually engage with them and present the design principles and why it has to be followed. I usually sit really close with them. Why? Because if they need like to ask me any question, like it's quite quick. Obviously now with like a lot of people work from home, it's a bit difficult, but that's what I usually do. Another thing, like share with them the usability heuristics, like the basic of design, like usability, where like they can catch really easily some issues, like okay, has the UI provided feedback? So it's something that they can catch. I usually tell them also is their responsibility the user experience of this product. Right, it's very, very their responsibility. One tool that I recommend to use is this Fastlane. I don't like they have other tools. The QA test, they have really good tools to test the UI, but this QA, this Fastlane is like a tool developed by, I think it was Airbnb, where you can easily like say, okay, I want to see this screen on iPhone 8, 9, and X, and I want to see like in different like resolution. So you can define, and then it grabs the screenshots for you. Another thing that I do is I link to UI user stories. So basically, that's the language that developers they speak. Like it's all about user stories and developers and BAs. So what I try to do, there are the user stories. I attach the link of the UI to the user stories, right? So and also I not only attach that, but also I create like a Confluence page, or you can use other tools. There's Kepler, there's SharePoint, all of those, where we basically I publish like the screens and show the happy path. And then you can see like in like each screen you have like links to the stories. So I provide the status of the screens, if they're approved, in review, ready for approval. I also I'll try to allow them to access to the previous versions of that screen to see like the evolution, why now we have this this screen. I encourage developers, and not only developers, and everyone to comment, to tag people, and to communicate. That's a key thing. So question here, should designers code? What do you think? I want to, like, just you can reply here in the chat. What do you think? Should designers like develop? Yes or no? No, no answer? No? I'm on the no, it depends. Yeah. Yeah, no, but they, yeah, you know, at least a HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, is no, they shouldn't code. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't learn how to code. It's different, right? Why? My background, I started as a front-end developer, and I learned like HTML doesn't look like, but I learned in 1996, a long time. And I still use HTML and CSS like to speak with like developers, engineers, especially when they say no. Oh, no, this thing is not possible. It's so difficult to do. And then I said, no, it's not that difficult. You definitely can do. And here's the like a solution. That helps me a lot. Not only help me to talk to them, but help me as a designer to understand like how the browser works in like when in responsive design, when you change like from light mode to dark mode, all those kind of things help a lot. So study the technology and frameworks that will be used in your project. So it's going to be used material design. It's going to be used like React and Angular. What are the UI libraries that they have, right? So it's important because you could be like an influencer to decide which design system is going to be used. I remember like in the previous project where I pretty much like myself as a designer and another designer, and there were like about like 20 like technical people, like engineers, BA, QA, testers, and architects as well, where we designers, we pretty much influenced that day to choose Carbon design as a framework, as implement to develop the UI. And yeah, they, you know, like they use that. And developers are likely to say no when they know that the designers can develop, or at least they know a bit of technology. Another question, let's go. Should developers design? Yes or no? What do you think? No? Never. Love it. Good. So yeah, let's see. No. Yeah, in my opinion is no as well. Yeah, they shouldn't design. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be part of the design process. It's different. So I try to involve them in the whole design process, especially invite them to watch the user testing and share with them the findings. I share with them the design principles, and sometimes I make them to sketch ideas, and they have some really good ideas. In fact, sometimes they even bring some new technology that I wasn't aware of. One thing that I try to do is run some lunch and learn sessions with them to explain, well, what is design. Go through the brand guidelines is something that we should do, and prove why typography, alignment, contrast, accessibility are important, countable, and what's the return of investment when you have it. Especially about the contrast and the accessibility. Accessibility is something like, especially in government projects, they're, very strict with accessibility to government, and we must implement and that. There's this post-MVP drama. Not sure if you heard about it. Everything is like, oh yeah, post-MVP, you're gonna implement it. Oh yeah, post-MVP, no problem at all. Like, let's after MVP, we can you can implement. And then there is like usually they share this like this is a bit waterfall like approach where you're building a car, and then that's how it shouldn't be like this. But also shouldn't be like this. That's their suggestion that okay, it should be a skate if you're building a product, because you can get from point A to B, and then have a scooter, bicycle, motorcycle, and then a car, right? You all could help you to get from point A to point B. But the reality, that's how at the end of it happens. Like it's a Frankenstein. Like it's a mix of bike, car, and skate. That's like that's not good. That's why I encourage designers and researchers, everyone, to be present in the agile ceremonies and make sure what they're deciding, be present to make sure like what they're doing is the right thing. I usually open tickets with bugs. If I found a bug in a product that I'm designing, or if I see something on that is live, there is a bug, I open the bug. Run as many user testing as possible before to prioritize the functionality with lack of user experience. It's something I try to run as many user testing as possible. Sometimes not it's not feasible because of budget constraints, but we do quite a lot. Another thing is make friends. I'm gonna share like how it's important to make friends. I mentioned about like how to make friends with QA designer, QA testers, but also with how we can make friends with other stakeholders. So we got like the first stakeholder, which is business analysts. Like why to make friends with them, to be friends with them. You can collaborate from the discovery to the delivery. Also have regular catch-ups with them, just to make sure everything's going well, and have some it's nice to have a retro, like the business analyst. Plan the design sprint together. Like it's not only responsibility of a designer or only the business analyst to plan the design sprint. I think we should plan together. Work with developers. So again, it's pretty much the same thing. Try to understand their needs as well. Developers sometimes if they say something is not possible to do because the API doesn't allow you to do that. So what is that? What does it mean? The API doesn't allow you to do that. So what can you do instead, right? Use the right tools. Don't be lazy on things that you have to change in the future. If it's something you have to change now, try to change it that thing ASAP, as soon as possible. And otherwise, you're just gonna carry on with the problem. The problem will be released in the product, and that's not really good. Design and delivery managers, it's good to define clear responsibilities, right? The roles and responsibility, and tell them that you don't develop, right? You're not front-end developer, not a developer. And they need to know in the beginning of the project. Facilitate feedback loops, frequent feedback loops. I think it's important to always make sure that the project manager is aware what's going on with design, and make sure they know what you're doing. Communicate risks. If you find a risk, let's say if the delivery manager says that can't we can't test, or what is going to be implemented is not going to be accessible, like communicate the risk. What's the risk of releasing a product without those features of that functionality? QA tests, I guess we already talked about it. It's basically try to be as clear as possible, because what you define your interaction in your design, your specification, what we specify, that's what we're going to see. Create assets that clearly demonstrate the design intention. Once you have functional prototypes, start testing and show them what you tested. Test for edge cases. I think that's an important thing. I think that's the last one. Working with product owners, inclusion, clarity, and bulletproof communication. I think it's important to always be clear and what you're designing. Why is important to be inclusive, and also the communication between you and the whole team is important. Establish and follow a chain of command. Basically, when something happens, let's say when there is a conflict, between, let's say, you and software engineer, what's going to happen in this case? Who's going to make that decision, and how that decision could be made? What's a workshop you could run to make a decision? Another thing that I suggest is spend a day in other shoes. You could be a delivery manager and understand their problems, what they face, and they could be in your shoes as well and understand what problems you face. I'm going to share with you later this playbook that we created in SPARCK to help product designers to better have a relationship with the other stakeholders. It's quite interesting playbook, which I can show you. Let me see if I can open here. 1 second. I think. No, I can open here. Oh yeah, I can, but 1 second. Okay, great. Yeah, that's the playbook. I can show you. You're gonna find a lot of information here, and there's some scenarios that you can see and see what's the possible solution, some glossary to help you, also a checklist of how is things that you should consider when working with a BA. There's the developers as well. It's quite a really interesting playbook to be used in any project. So yeah, that's it for all. Sorry, I think I'm a bit late, but I'd like to open for any questions. No, does anyone have any questions, any comments?
If not, I actually have one question, if that's possible. Yeah, I'm curious that from your experience, Helio, if you are in a project that they don't have or the roles down, probably it's missing a business analyst, it's missing QA, and then sometimes they expect you to, or other roles, to do that job.
Yeah.
How would you deal with that situation?
Yeah, we mean you mean let's say if there is not
for example, they don't have BA and they don't have QA, and then they expect you to help them to test, to do the QA job. What would you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I guess it's actually happened. The first thing I try to do is to highlight, to raise this problem with the event manager, and tell them what's the risk of not having a QA or a business analyst, and then I try to identify in the team who best can help with that work. especially in the beginning, let's say if there is no like a BA, perhaps like the QA testers, that's as they usually work at the end of the sprint more, right? Because like they need to wait the developers to implement, and then they can test, and then like it's something that I can invite them to write the stories, or we as a team, we can write the stories together, you know, like during the sessions. Yeah, that's basically what I try to do. And sometimes there's even like in the team, within the team, there's someone that is willing to do this work, you know, willing to you know, like to work as a, let's say, as a BA or as a tester, or you know that sort of work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone have a question even later on, we will leave the contact with Brenda, and then you can just like ask us anything related to this. And we also going to share the playbook later with Brenda as well.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a great talk. Thank you so much, you two, for sharing your knowledge. And we're glad you're able to make it and do this with the Tequeria UX Cafecito. So thank you again. And I'm going to drop a link to the UX Cafecito Notion again for anyone that wants to revisit the recording. The recording will be shared in a specific page for this talk in the Notion, as well as the event page on the Tequeria calendar will be updated. And this recording will probably be uploaded within a week or so to YouTube. So keep an eye out for the calendar, the Notion, posting on the UX channel in the Tequeria Slack, and an updated LinkedIn post about this. So hope you all have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Thanks
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.